forever, and I've got to make my decision. This time it could be my moment. Is this a mirage or a chance to fulfill my mission? A river in a dry land, the land is in a lost land, a heartbeat for demon, a oasis in a strange land. I'm given the balance, but I'm standing on razor's edge now. What quick, all my life is over. One strike just of pain, then I'm out of his field of vision. Don't ask why I'm ready, but I'm ready to strike him down now. I just saw the new stars, there's no time for indecision. A river in a dry land, the land is in a lost hand. When I hop off new beginnings, burn out these. Now we need it, a heartbeat for demon, oasis in a siege land. Remind us what we're here for, creating new lives, creating rivers in the desert. My heart is a furnace, had a selling my word of conflict. One goes what keeps me going. Take back what I lost to the bosses of greed and fear. Yeah. Don't ask why I'm ready, but I'm ready to take them down now. The time for a new start is constantly drawing nearer. A river in a dry land, the land is in a lost hand. When I hop off new beginnings, burned out the...
Hello everyone, Sky Renwood here, and welcome to the channel. No gameplay today. I'm sorry about that. Gameplay will return tomorrow. Do not worry. And we'll probably be continuing on with bears. But, in the meantime, between time, yeah, so today is just going to be a vlog. Something that I've been not been wanting to, because I've kind of touched on this topic before, but I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth, if I may, today. Just for a little bit. Don't worry. I'm not going to take too much of you guys' time. I know you guys have awesome things to do. I have to go to work pretty soon, but I figure, you know what? Before I go to work, I wanted to bring you guys something. And this something is going to be in the form of like an informative vlog, and educational purposes. But understand this vlog is entirely opinionated. This isn't going to be something based off of fact. It's going to be based off of my knowledge on the subject, or the lack thereof. So what you take away from this is, of course, on your own discretion. I do ask that you try to utilize the things that I'm going to talk to you about, mainly due to the fact that I feel like these things actually do work. But again, this is based off of my own personal beliefs and not so much based on fact. So, what's going on, Anna Simmer, F6, and Gary? I don't know if Gary's still here. Going to have this stream on my ears while I'm pre-recording for next week. Alright, cool. But anyway, having said that, I'm going to jump into it. As you can see from the title of the video and everything, this, or maybe you probably don't know it, and if that's the case, then I do sorry. It can be, or probably is, a little bit enigmatic. But basically what I'm talking about is, or what I'm going to be talking about, I should say, is dealing with depression and anxiety. But I'm not going to be talking about it in just one standpoint. I'm going to be talking about it on two different standpoints, from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out. I will start with the outside looking in. Basically, what it boils down to is How do you deal with somebody who is dealing with depression or anxiety? That seems to be a question that plagues a lot of people for a lot of different reasons because you really don't know what to do or what to say or how to react. Um, and I can understand that. As a person who is actively involved or has people actively involved in my life who deals with depression and anxiety, it more or less kind of plagues my life and my mind a lot more than I would have ever thought. Now, of course, as most of you guys know, I have a pretty positive disposition with life and everything. I'm very happy-go-lucky, fun-loving guy, different things like that and stuff. So, of course, when different things pop up that I have to immediately deal with or choose to deal with, the question always remains in the back of my mind after I'm finished dealing with it is, did I handle that situation to the best of my ability? Because sometimes you just really don't know. And here's basically my advice for handling those with that. Number one is going to be listen. Oftentimes we kind of jump the gun and assume what it is that they're going to say or assume that we know what they're going through. And the thing is, we don't know. Even if you know what it's like to be depressed, people deal with depression differently. So you don't know exactly what this particular person is going through, so don't automatically assume that you know. So like I said, that falls into what I was saying before. Listen. Listen to what they're trying to say. Listen to what they're trying to emote and tell you and everything. Listen contently. Listen with your ears, not with your mouth. Because at that point in time, if they do choose to come out to you and vent to you and tell you what's going on with them, they are literally putting their trust within you to be able to hear what they're saying without judging them. But the only way you can really hear somebody is if you're actually listening with your ears and not with your mouth. So, of course, the first tip is to listen to what it is that they have to say. My second tip would be do your best to take yourself out of the equation. What I mean by that is often we kind of put ourselves in any situation because we feel like that's the best way to make it personable. For instance, if I were to tell you guys that I had a bad day at work, a lot of you guys would try to reflect on your own experiences of having bad days at work and try to use that or inject that into your advice for helping me. And in turn, I may not want that. And it's the same thing with somebody who's going through it. They may tell you exactly what they're going through. For instance, they could tell you, I just lost my dad, my uncle, my aunt, whatever, just passed away. And you might try to reflect on when you lost a loved one. And that's not what they want to do. What they want you to do is basically come out and tell them what it is that they should do to help them to get better. I don't mean literally force them to listen to you and say you should be doing this. Everything that you do should be, or everything that you say, if it's in the form of a suggestion, should be presented as a suggestion and not a demand. And definitely don't come off as judgmental. What you have to understand is, no, a person who's suffering from depression and anxiety isn't within themselves fragile, but they are at that point in a very fragile and vulnerable state. So they're hypersensitive to anything that it is, or anything that you say. So if you say things that you may feel in your state of mind is a proper thing to say, on the flip side of that, they might take it the wrong way. And it's all about your delivery, which rolls into my third topic point, which is delivery. Your delivery has to be on point. Your delivery has to be fluid, and your delivery has to be confident. But at the same time, it has to be a very subtle approach. You can't be too demanding. You can't be too in your face. You can't be too positive because that might come off as condescending. If somebody is depressed and they're going through it and you're coming up just like, oh, everything's going to be okay, it's happy. That's not what they don't want you to be depressed as well, but they also don't want you to be too happy where it seems like you have a disconnect from what the reality is for them. So if you're acting way too happy, then it's not really going to connect with them. If you're acting way too sad, it's definitely not going to connect with them. So find that middle ground to be able to deliver whatever suggestion you have to say. And again, like I said, it's all about that delivery of what it is that you say. Number 4 would be guard yourself. More often than not, you're going to be faced with a situation in which you're going to have to help a family member or a friend or a coworker, whomever, out with their, depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be. The thing is, as humans who possess the ability to be empathetic, we can be vulnerable to that as well. Meaning, if somebody is extremely depressed about something going on, if you don't guard yourself, you in turn can become depressed as well, and not even realize why, or not even realize that you are. You're not even acting like yourself anymore because they have literally brought down your entire being. Your entire mindset has been brought down to their level because you have not allowed yourself to stay guarded. So you have to make sure that you guard yourself, because if you don't, you could lose yourself within that, like I said, within that depressive storm that's going on within them, and that's literally enveloping or encasing you as well. So allow yourself to kind of be close, but at the same time be distant, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, you'll understand what I'm saying when you get to that position. What's up, Angel? How's it going? Larry, welcome. Halos and Heathens, what's going on? Geeks, what's going on? How you doing? Vicky, I should say. Going to be in and out. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Understandable. This is a big man from Flat Game to come to support. Just listening in. I couldn't agree with you more for what you're saying. Doing well. That's great. Thank you so much, Flat Gaming. But like I said, make sure you guard yourself. Number 6. You're going to have to be strong. If you are, for instance, in a relationship with somebody who is on record depressed, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be an easy journey. It's really going to weigh on you. And if you're not a strong enough person, don't put yourself in that situation. I know it sounds heartless and I know it sounds mean, but if you meet a man or a woman for the first time and you guys go on a date and you find out this person does suffer from depression or anxiety, at that point in time you have to ask yourself, is it something you are willing and capable of putting up with? Because the moment that you find out that you're not, it's only going to leave them in a worse state. And do you yourself want to put that person through that? However, you also have to look at the fact that you yourself are going to be affected to some degree the moment you decide to stay with that person. You're going to have to up your game up. You're going to have to be strong. You can't easily just give up, because if there's one thing that I tell people all the time who deals with depression is that they're not in a rush. Nobody's rushing them to get better. And with saying that, you also have to realize that this could take years for them to learn how to control or even conquer and get over. And we're talking about upwards of 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. Is that something you're willing to go through for that amount of time? And if it's not, then you probably have to consider not wasting their time or yours. Especially, like I said, if this is the type of person who latches on very closely. Because you have to imagine when somebody is depressed, they look for that one inkling of hope. And if you yourself are that inkling of hope, and you turn around and leave them because of the fact that you just can't handle it, then it's just not fair to them. So ask yourself and really contemplate before you get involved with anybody, even if it's just a friend, anybody who's like this. You need to ask yourself, am I strong enough to deal with this? And if the answer is no, don't waste your time, don't waste their time. But if their answer is yes, you have to practice that stick-to-itiveness. The next one is the title of this video, which is to give them what they want and not what they need. By that I mean this. Some people who are suffering from depression want to be coddled. They want to be held. They want to be reassured that not only do you understand where they're coming from, but you can empathize with them on all levels. And although that is a good thing to do, it's not something that should be done all the time. So giving them what they want and not what they need entails sometimes showing that tough love. If you know the person that you're with or the person that you're dealing with is suffering from depression and the only thing they do to pull themselves out of a slump is to look for a hug, that wouldn't be, to me, would be a temporary band-aid. Because if you deal with them today, who's to say something won't trigger them tomorrow? Are you always going to be readily available to give them a hug? Are you always going to be readily available to talk to them on the phone, to come over to the house, to deal with that? No, sometimes you have things that you have to do, whether it be going to work, visiting family members, hanging out with friends, or whatever like that. They need to know how to be able to deal with it on their own, but they will never know how to do that if the only thing you're doing is giving them what they want and not what they need. And like I said, a person's needs vary. So what works for one person may not work for somebody else. It might be easy for you to pull yourself out of a slump by just taking a drive, going on a long walk, getting on YouTube, whatever the case may be. That might not work for somebody else. Your job as their support system is to find out what works for them. And if they try to block you, your job also becomes to basically still encourage them to do this. Because you yourself, if you love them enough, would want to see them grow. But if a person becomes stagnant and used to a certain situation, they will not want to grow because they've gotten comfortable in the situation that they're in. For instance, if I know a person that I'm with, or let's say a friend of mine, every single time they get into it or they get depressed, they look forward to the fact that I'm going to hug them and tell them that everything is going to be okay and that everything is fine. They will get used to every single time it gets to that point. They will always, assuredly, run to me every single time they feel like that. But the moment that I decide I want to go on vacation, I want to spend time with my wife, I need to go to work, I need to do different things like that, and I'm not readily available, they will stay in that funk and not know how to get themselves out because they haven't been properly trained. And who is helping to train them? You are. So you might feel like what they need right then and there is a hug and a reassurance that everything is going to be okay. And sure, you can still do that. But on top of that, you also need to roll over and lead them to that path that they need to be on. Always follow it up with a suggestion and say, hey, look, this is what you should be doing. Maybe we should try this out. Let's see if this works for you. And in turn, they may turn around and realize that that does work for them, so that way they don't always have to rely on you or anybody else. You can imagine as a husband or a wife, if you realize that your husband or wife is suffering from depression and they have a prior friendship outside of your marriage or relationship. Let's say me as a man am with a woman who is suffering from depression. If before we got together, she had a friend of hers, let's say this friend was a guy, or even a woman, doesn't matter what gender, but let's say it was a guy or a girl who every single time she got this depressed, she ran to them and they would always make her feel better. How would that make you feel? Or how would that make me feel as a husband knowing that I can't console my wife because she is constantly running to somebody else's aid? She is always, there's nothing I could do. I could try to give her a hug. I can rub her hair. I can tell her everything that this other person says. But because she's so used to running to this person, it literally becomes second nature for her to do this every single time she gets depressed. Of course, as a husband or as a wife, you're going to want to make sure, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, you're going to want to make sure that there's literally, you can do everything within your power to help out your significant other. And the moment that you can't do that, you start to feel a little useless. You start to feel some kind of way about it and everything. And this is exactly what happens to those people who are not being treated the proper way, who are basically being given what they want instead of what they need. And that's basically, like I said, what it comes down to. So if you are understanding this and you realize that that's what the situation is, and you see that you have somebody in your life who is effectively going through something like that, at that point in time, it behooves you to basically follow these steps to help to make that person a better person. If that makes any sense. What's going on, Spike? How you doing? Looks like Angel A. Spike works fine. More than welcome. Awesome. Loving everybody in this chat right now. What's going on, Verdict? Welcome, welcome. Spike, what's going on? Ontario Studios, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. Upload part 51. That is awesome, Spike. That is awesome, Spike. Do your thing, man. Cool, Spike. I'm glad you're uploading and all that good stuff, buddy. But like I said, that is on the part of the person who is dealing with it. Or I guess you say the person on the outside. Like I said, I wanted to focus on two parts. That's the person on the outside looking in and on the inside looking out. For the outside looking in, like I said, I've given you guys a few pointers on definitely how you should or shouldn't approach those situations, especially, like I said, when dealing with loved ones or friends or anything like that of that nature and stuff. So like I said, make sure that those points, like I said, I told you at the beginning, I'm not going to go on record as saying any of this is official. This is how I treat it. This is how I, deal with it. And I know that for me, it's worked. It's worked and everything. So take this as you will. Utilize it if you want. But at the end of the day, and I know there's a lot of people that's oblivious to it. I know there's a lot of people that feel like it really doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. It really is, and you should treat it like a big deal. The thing is, you shouldn't even so much as bother. Like, even if you're watching this video afterwards, and this is not something that you feel would affect you, still listen and absorb, because you never know when this situation will pop up in your life, and you can utilize this stuff as well. It's always great to feel like, oh, this will never happen to me. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to listen. I don't need to take it seriously. Until it actually does happen to you, and then you literally are left with no tools to work with because you chose to ignore obvious advice on how to help people. And let's be honest, who in this world doesn't want to help their fellow man? Even if it's a stranger on the street, you could still utilize this to any degree to be able to help them. Because at some point in time, you probably will fall into a depression. And I would like to believe that at some point in time, a person has watched this video or any other video out there on YouTube, got this advice on how to deal with you and effectively helped you, versus ignoring it and then in turn ignoring you. So again, even if you're watching this after the fact and you feel like this doesn't apply to me, I don't know everybody around me is happy-go-lucky and awesome and whatever like that and stuff. Okay, bravo. I'm glad that you're not in a situation in which anybody you're dealing with is going through depression or anxiety, because those are hard subjects to talk about and deal with. However, that's now. We really don't know what's going to happen in the future. And who really knows? You may run across somebody like that, or you yourself may become a victim of that. So it behooves you to more or less try to take heed to what it is that I'm telling you, and at least try to take it somewhat seriously and everything. I want to say fully seriously, but I know there are some people who really don't care, and that's fine. But again, it's your opinion, and I respect everybody's opinion. On the flip side of that, I'm on to deal with or talk about the people who are dealing with depression and anxiety, the ones that are, like I said before, the inside looking out. I myself, I don't suffer from depression. I myself, I don't suffer from anxiety. However, I do deal with a few people in my life who do suffer from these things. And I would tell you it's one of the hardest things to have to witness, because it's one of those literal instances in which there's not much that you can do. And it sucks knowing that you really can't do, if you pride yourself in always being a helpful person or a positive person or a great influence or a great advice giver or whatever the case may be, sometimes when you run into a situation in which you are literally deemed useless, you kind of take it hard. But like I said, for those on the inside looking out, here's the thing. My advice for anybody who's dealing with depression or anxiety is always I can't say always, but this is one of those things in which I will touch on right now. You have no choice. You owe it to everybody around you and to yourself to basically forgive yourself. That's number one. Whatever it is that's bothering you, which 9 times out of 10, if you're suffering from depression, it is self-inflicted, meaning that you are sitting up there depressed about something that you may have done, you may have said or thought or something like that, and it's got you depressed. What you need to do is forgive yourself, because there is no way that you can carry on any healthy relationship, because you will not allow yourself to get that close to somebody if you are not forgiving yourself from any past mistake that you've done. You will unknowingly distance yourself from anybody you deem to be close to you, because you honestly can't forgive yourself. And if you can't forgive yourself, that means you look at yourself in a certain light. You don't look at yourself on equal terms to anybody. And if you don't look at yourself on equal terms to the one that you're with, to your child, to your mother, to your father, to whomever, unfortunately, it's not going to work. It's not going to make any sense whatsoever. There is going to be distance, and there's going to be constant distance, because you're not living up to your full potential, because you can't move on from this one thread that's holding you back, which is forgiving yourself. So please do your best to forgive yourself. Number 2 would be take your time. Don't allow fear to dictate anything. Anybody who's dealing with this, you have to be adult enough, and I mean adult enough to realize 2 things. 1, healing and everything takes time. It takes time. Number 2, there is no such thing as instant gratification. If you think that that's instant gratification, you are a 5-year-old child that really doesn't know how the world works. You cannot get cured from anything without going through a time span of healing. You have to allow yourself to heal. You have to allow things to take effect. You cannot allow any of this stuff to happen for one day and think that it has a significant change on you. It will not happen. I cannot emphasize this enough. It will not happen. You have to allow yourself time to heal. You have to allow yourself time to grow. It's like a flower, and I use this analogy a lot. When you plant a seed, no matter how much you water it, no matter how much you put it in the sun and feed it and do everything that you can, it's not going to grow to its fullest potential in one day. You're going to have to give this thing time. You're going to have to nourish it every single day. You will have to do everything you can. And using the same analogy, I will segue into my 3rd point, which is you have to do the work. If I tell you how to grow the flower, if every single week or every single day you came to me and said, Sky, how do I plant a seed? I can describe it to you all day. But if you leave my office or leave my house and the only thing you do is just stare at this pot and don't do anything I've told you to do, the flower will not grow. What I mean by that is no matter what your source of advice is coming from, whether you have a counselor, a psychiatrist, a friend, a loved one, or whatever, if they're giving you suggestions on how to deal with your depression or anxiety, you owe it to everybody, including the people who have taken the time out to actually care about you, to try it. You have to try it. Because how are you going to grow as a person if you're not willing to put in that effort? You have to be willing to put in the effort. You cannot expect yourself to get over your depression or anxiety. You cannot expect to work on your depression or anxiety if you yourself are not actually working on it. If the only thing you're looking forward to is going to see somebody, if the only thing you're working on or you're looking forward to is talking it out, and you're not, if I've given you the advice, I've given you the tools, and you're not utilizing those tools, then you're only leading to your own self-destruction. And a lot of people will look at it from both sides. They'll be like, okay, Sky, well, you told me on the outside looking in that I should make the decision beforehand. If I'm going to get with somebody that is suffering from depression, I should make the decision beforehand on whether or not I'm strong enough to deal with it. And then I decided that I wanted to get with this person. And then halfway through, I realized that this person isn't trying to do anything to better themselves. What do I do then? At that point in time, it's not your fault. It's hard to say this, but sometimes you have to recognize a situation for what it is. Sometimes you have to look out for yourself. Do you really want to have to go through life coddling someone for the rest of their lives? If you honestly don't want to, if you realize that this person isn't trying to help themselves and you've done everything in your power to try and make it happen, in order to keep yourself or that person from just self-destructing, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet and do what you have to do. It's unfortunate to say that, but it's a harsh reality that those suffering from it has to realize. You can't just sit back. It's harsh, and I'm sorry to put it out that way, but it's harsh to say it. But at the end of the day, you can't sit back and expect things to change miraculously because you talked about it. No. If they're telling you, write out your feelings, go for a walk, take a bubble bath, whatever, even taking medication, even though that's sometimes a lot of people don't want to do it, try aromatherapy and everything. Try different things. It doesn't matter if one person suggests something that you really don't want to do. If you're really determined, find out another way. I know plenty of people who don't like the idea of taking medication. They don't want it. They don't want to turn into a zombie. They don't want to be this former shell of themselves and everything because they're taking those pills and it's going to make them feel nothing. And they don't want to deal with that. And I understand that. But there are different things that try acupuncture. Try aromatherapy. Try getting a massage. That might help. There's a lot of different things that can happen. A tranquil bubble bath twice a week. Treat yourself to yourself. You don't have to always go out with your loved ones or with friends. If you want to go out and see a movie on your own and take yourself out to dinner, yeah, you're probably going to look a little lonely, but sometimes that might be what you need. Anything. Whatever works for you, you have to experiment and find out what works for you. And then when you find out what does, keep at it. And I guarantee after a few years or more, you're going to start to learn how to control these feelings, these emotions, everything that's welling up within you. You're going to learn how to control it to an effective degree. And you'll see everything around you start to change and develop in a very good and positive way. But it's not going to happen if you're not trying. You have to try. You have to put forth some kind of effort. No matter how hard it is, you have to look at yourself as a strong person capable of overcoming any obstacle. And even though you might not be able to feel it right then and there, eventually it will pass. Eventually, you're not going to be like that for eternity. You're not going to be like that for the rest of your life. You may be depressed right now, but within the next couple of days, I guarantee you'll be over it. And at that point in time, you need to utilize and think about what it is that you can do to be able to stop yourself from getting that point. You'll be able to recognize the signs. You'll know your body, everything. You know your body better than anybody. And you'll know the symptoms that are coming up when you're about to get depressed, when you're right on the peripheries of getting depressed. You'll be like, you know what? Nope. What it is, what can I do to make sure that I don't sink further into this depression? What can I do? And if you have been listening to advice and the suggestions from other people, I guarantee one of those will effectively work for you. But if you choose to ignore it and literally wallow in self-pity and stay there, then you're only harming yourself. And you're also effectively harming those around you because they have to watch you suffer knowing that there's nothing that they can do to help you out. And I'm sorry, but I would be forced to believe, and I believe anybody else would be forced to believe, that if you are going through this and you are choosing not to help yourself, it means that you want it. You feel like you deserve it. It's a way of punishment for yourself. And as I told you in the beginning, as the first advice, I told you, you have to forgive yourself. It rolls right back into one. Because the moment that you forgive yourself is the moment that you can fully start to recover the proper way. You will no longer feel like you have to punish yourself anymore. You will effectively, at that point in time, say, you know what? I deserve better, therefore I'm going to do better. But you're not going to feel that way if you haven't forgiven yourself, because subconsciously you are still effectively hurting yourself. You're still effectively feeling that you are getting what you deserve because of a past misdeed or whatever the case may be. So forgiving yourself should be first and foremost. And then follow that up with receiving and accepting help and suggestion and advice from anybody who's willing to give you the time of day. And utilize it. Do your best. Even if you know there's a good chance it won't work, try it. What's the worst that can happen? I would rather, if I was depressed, I would rather try something and know it's probably going to not affect me than not try anything at all. Because again, what's the worst that could happen? It's not going to make me more depressed. I'm already at the bottom of the barrel. So what do I have to lose? And that's what you should ask yourself. Don't take it as a personal jab at you. If somebody says, hey, you should probably try this, don't take it as an insult. Take it as somebody taking their time to actually care about you and wanting to help you. And you owe it to them to at least try. And honestly, the person on the outside looking in, if they see that you're trying their suggestion, it'll make them feel a lot better. It really will. And I know that's not what you're out to do. A person who's depressed isn't out to make somebody else feel better. But when you make the person who's helping you feel better, it will encourage them to keep it going, to do even more. And that in turn will help you. It will. I guarantee it. See you later, Verdict. Have a great day. Flag Gaming. Nobody can help you until they're willing to help themselves. Smokescreen, what are you making a weird face for? Especially from Sky. I don't know. What did I walk into? Okay. Talking about... No. Why would I talk about... I don't know Daisy. Why would I talk about Daisy? It's weird. He's talking about daisies and lilies. Oh, well, that takes yoga massages. There you go. That works as well. Hello, Maritime Gamers. How you doing? See you later, Anna Simmer. See you later, Smokescreen. Okay. But yeah, those are the topics, are the things that I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, I didn't want to take too much of you guys' time. It was just something that I wanted to talk about real quick to get it out there because I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough. And I really wanted everybody to kind of like, you know, be aware of it. Especially, like I said, you know, with it being so constant and in your face nowadays. So, like I said, take this video as you will. Do whatever it is that you can. Utilize it to the best of your ability, whether you're suffering from depression and anxiety or whether you're trying to help somebody who suffers from depression or anxiety. Hopefully, you have gotten something from this video to be able to utilize, and it helps you out a little bit. I'm always available to give advice and everything like that. So if you want to reach me, you can find me on Twitter at Moon Knight1111. And just message me. Say, hey, you know, Sky, I need to know how to deal with this situation, and I will give you advice to the best of my ability. But with that being said, I'm going to go on ahead and bring the stream to an end. If you are new here, please feel free to like, share, and support this channel. Also, I will be returning tomorrow with some more bears. If you have no idea what that is, then I'm sorry. You should probably check out my stream from day before yesterday, and you'll know what bears is. Basically, check out my last video, and you'll know what bears is. Either way, I love you guys. Have a fantastic night or day, depending on where you are, and take care.
Don't you know what you're studying? You sure we got that clue? How bad this we go? Don't you know? No more art. And as you look to the horizon, not a cloud, but then stormy weather's go too cold. Seems like it crept up out of nowhere.